So we're going to move on with the course, getting your first piercing. This episode, we're going to talk about selecting jewelry. What goes into that process? This is the 7th one. If you want to go back and watch the other ones, they go into other stuff that you should know. Coming up next on New to Piercing, episode number 44. For those that are new to the channel, welcome to the Body Piercing and Tattooing channel. Hope you're enjoying the videos. Hope you find it helpful and useful, but you may not know who I am. My name is DaVo. I'm a professional body piercer and have been since 1994. I own and I operate the Axiom Body Piercing studio, located right here in Des Moines, Iowa, inside Skin Kitchen Tattoo. Having the proper jewelry is extremely important in the healing process, in the piercing process. It's very important that you have the correct size, the correct type, the correct material, and it has a good finish on it. That can greatly affect whether or not the outcome of the piercing is going to be successful or be a complete nightmare. It doesn't matter how well the piercing's done. It doesn't matter how good the piercer is. If you're using improper jewelry, you're going to have problems more than likely. So now we're going to talk about what goes into the selection of jewelry. What do we think about? What is our thinking as a professional of what we're looking for when it comes to picking that perfect piece of jewelry? The first one would be material. What exactly is it made out of? Is it, I don't know, metal? Or is it stainless, I don't know, metal? Or is it implant grade, third-party certified, biocompatible material? There is only one way of knowing whether or not, in fact, a product is exactly what it is, and that is having a laboratory test outside, third party, not on in-house, but out of house, of verifying that it is actually the material that is needed. The reason why this is extremely important is low-grade jewelry, even if you don't have any metal allergies, may leak out materials that could be hazardous to your health. Plastics would be a good example of that. The other problem is that if you have any type of metal sensitivity or are commonly going to have allergic reactions. The most common metal allergy there is nickel. Nickel is in a lot of things. If you're allergic to it, you already know that. What you want to go is with something that doesn't contain any nickel. Your options on that are titanium alloy, niobium, and 14 karat solid gold or better that is in fact nickel free. No trace nickel, no trace elements. We refer to this level as biocompatible or implant grade. Titanium is probably the industry standard at this point in time. There's a lot of people playing around with a lot of different materials, but at glass or titanium are really the only two that you really have an option of likely not having an allergic reaction to. But there are different grades of both glass and titanium. There are different grades of surgical stainless steel. There's different grades of niobium. All of those things may have something in there that you react to. So it's important that there is that third-party certification. Weight is another thing that comes into play when it comes to healing out a piercing. If the jewelry is too heavy, it's going to add stress to the piercing, which is going to increase the longevity of the healing process and possibly cause the piercing to reject or migrate or have other issues. We want something that's lightweight in the piercing initially. We don't want something super heavy. This is one of the reasons why gold sometimes is not the best option, because it can be very heavy, especially with extremely large pieces. Titanium, a lot lighter. Rejection resistance. There's kind of two things that can possibly happen during a piercing healing. It can either move, or what we refer to as migrate, and then stop, but not completely reject from the body, or where the body completely rejects the jewelry. This is one of the reasons why we want it as biocompatible or body-friendly as possible, so that it doesn't have that instinct to do that. The other thing we want to consider is how thick the jewelry is. The thicker the jewelry, the more resistance there is for that jewelry to move around. So sometimes piercing at a larger gauge is a better option. The other thing is, and I'll get into this with trauma and etc., is that thinner pieces of metal are going to be more likely to get torn or ripped during the healing process and afterwards. So thicker jewelry, more durable, makes the piercing more durable. The other thing is we need to consider is what's going to have the least amount of contact with the world around it and what's going to reduce the amount of trauma that's going to be done to the piercing. So really sharp edges, points, things that hang out of the body or have a really high profile that are going to get caught on, clothing, towels, hair, everything imaginable are going to be more prone to causing issues and having a difficult heal. So it's best to have something that fits the piercing well, looks good, of course, but is not going to get caught and snagged on absolutely everything it comes in contact with. The other thing is we want to reduce movement during the healing process. We kind of want that piercing jewelry to stay in the same position and not move around a lot. The reason why is when it moves around, it's going to agitate the piercing, it can dislodge new skin growth, it can prolong your healing period, and can lead to those bumps that everybody absolutely dislikes. So how do we do that? Well, making sure the jewelry fits properly. And the other thing is, if we do have to put in a longer barbell, coming back and letting us downsize to a shorter piece. We want to avoid the jewelry rotating not only through the piercing, but also swinging back and forth. It's one of the reasons why rings or circular jewelry is not the best option for an initial piercing. There are some where it is, but they're few by comparison to the other one than those that are. Rings were kind of the standard for absolutely everything 20, 30 years ago. However, that was because the post jewelry and etc. wasn't as easily accessible, not acceptable, and it was harder to find. So for that reason, I really wouldn't. We don't pierce with the rings as much because there's more movement, there's more problems. Straight post, curved barbells are probably the standard on a majority of the piercings that you're going to want. The next thing we have to consider is security. Now, with security, the location can be a big factor. Is this in an area of the body where it's going to get caught or interact with other parts of the body or the world around you often? With that, we're going to need something that's a lot more secure than, say, something that's in a more isolated area where it really doesn't come in contact with clothing and doesn't get in contact with other people, etc. Another thing we want to consider with security is danger. If it's in an area of the body that may likely come off and then possibly cause a choking issue or maybe a genital piercing falling off in an area where you do not want it to be, then it needs to be a lot more secure than something that's like in a nose piercing. It's just the way life is. The next thing with security is how that jewelry closes or what the closure is on that jewelry. There are basically 5 to 6 different types of closures that you may encounter. A few of these shouldn't probably be used during the healing process. They should be used as something an aftermarket kind of situation. First one being threaded jewelry, which actually threads into the post. The next type are threadless, often referred to as push pin or pull push and all friction, whatever. Friction balls, I've had friction ends. The way these work, the post itself is hollow. The end has a piece of bent wire, kind of like that. And when you press them into the post, they expand and create a friction hold and are held in place. So to remove it, you pull. To put it back in, you just push it in. The next type would be captive, or I've heard them called closure or captive, or there's a lot of different names for the same thing. Basically, these are usually rings. They have a ring, and then there's a section of the ring that comes out, and what you do, and the tension of the ring actually captures whatever you put between the two ends of that section that's separate from the ring. These are used a lot in genital piercings. Are a very secure piece of jewelry that you don't really have to worry about ends falling off. They're kind of one of those things you put in your piercing and not ever have to worry about it falling out. You don't have to check ends. You don't have to do anything. Now we're moving into some ones that I really wouldn't suggest initially piercing with. The first type would be hinged rings or clickers. There's a section that actually is connected on one side, and then you open it up into a hinge. The problem with these is the roughness of some of those closures can cause issues, or they can kind of just come apart on their own. They're not always that secure. The next type are called seamless or beaded rings. There's a number of other different terms for it. Basically, it's a solid one piece, usually a ring or always a ring, and there are various different combinations of this. But to put it in, you have to kind of pull it apart a little bit and then rotate it back, kind of make a corkscrew, put it in, and then push it back, and then try to get it back in that exact same spot. Problem with these is that area that is between where the ball or the other end of the ring sits can get wider and wider and wider over time. It doesn't keep it shaped very well. And that can be a problem during a healing process if that seam or that rough end of the ring gets in there and tissue grows into it. Not really what I would suggest initially. The other type would be flanged and O-rings and etc. These are more for after the piercing is healed, usually involved in stretching, though I have pierced in the past with glass jewelry because of circumstances or everything else as kind of an experiment. And that's one way you can do it. It's just not very safe. They fall out pretty freaking easily. The last one would be bent or curved jewelry to fit into particular piercings. Examples of this would be L-bends and corkscrews, or some people call them, but they're called nostril screws. Basically, these are a gym or some type of setting on a long piece of wire that is bent either into a shape of an L or into kind of a L with a curve tail. And they're only really used for nostril piercings. They're not very secure. We used to pierce them all the time back in the day, but that was before there was easy access to labret studs and threadless jewelry and everything else. The next thing to consider is anatomy. Is that piece of jewelry going to fit comfortably into that area? Is it going to have enough room for it to fit? That goes into what the length of the jewelry is and etc. The next thing would be the length of the actual piercing. How much room are we taking? And how much swelling is there likely to be? On some piercings, we see a vast amount of swelling. On other piercings, we might see a little bit or a level where it's not even noticeable. So in some cases where we know, in fact, it's going to swell, we're going to put longer posts in to allow for swelling during the healing, during the initial about 4 to 8 weeks. And then downsizing or during the healing period, and then downsizing with shorter posts to keep or cut down the amount of movement. So it's very important. That is dictated by your anatomy. Everybody's different. Everybody's shaped different. Everybody's different sizes. There is not one size fits all with that. One of the common questions I get on here in comments is, what size fits this piercing? Well, it commonly is this to this, but I can't tell you because you're not in front of me. I can't measure it out, and I can't take a look at it and gauge kind of how big you need for that particular piercing. Now we're going to get into kind of the fashion end of it and kind of what you are trying to achieve with this piercing. What kind of statement are you actually making? Clients, I can generally kind of get a look at them, kind of check out their style, and suggest things from time to time. There's kind of two extremes that you can go with any piercing that's visible, especially. Either I've got this piercing and it's elegant and it fits into my body and it adds to the beauty that's already there, or it's really subtle and nice, or I've got a piercing and you need to know about it, where it's more extreme jewelry, larger jewelry, something that's very, very visible, and something that definitely does not that can fit into the body. There's no way around that, but it's a much more bolder style. Piercing is more presented in that situation. The jewelry is more of the story than the anatomy around it. Next thing is always how that's going to fit into that anatomy. How is it going to look when it's actually pierced? Is it going to be too big, too small? Is et cetera? We have these things called simulator sticks. They're a plastic stick that we can stick like ends in, and then you can hold them up to your nose or your ear or wherever we're doing the piercing and get a basic understanding of how that's going to look and how it's going to work into that environment. A piercer with a good eye and a lot of jewelry can usually find something that's going to fit just perfectly in there, or make a number of different suggestions for you to choose from. The other thing with jewelry is, does it match the other jewelry in the area? Does it flow with the rest of the jewelry or stand out, or maybe that's what you're going for, or does it kind of just look like it was always meant to be there with that jewelry? This is really common with ear piercings. I don't know how many times I've done a piercing and I went, wow, that looks really good. I should probably take a photo of it. and then stopped myself because there was a bunch of other jewelry there that just didn't fit the picture I wanted to present. They were done by other piercers, or it was old piercings with old jewelry in it. And I always kind of try to hint towards, maybe we should change this out, but I also don't want people to feel pressured to spend a lot of money on jewelry if they can't afford it. But you do want to consider that when you're picking out jewelry. How's it going to fit with the rest of the stuff I wear on a regular basis? And your piercer should bring this up if you haven't. This is the artistic eye of it, and this is the difference between, in many cases, some piercers that have it and some piercers that just don't. Does it fit into the flow in the structure of the anatomy that is there? Jewelry type, size, and what color it is, and etc., what material it is can make a huge difference between that piercing looking like an alien object that was just shoved through there or something that was always meant to be there. When we talk about flow, we're talking about something that fits into the natural curvatures and shapes of the body. And that's important. It does make the difference. Now, seeing yourself right after getting a piercing in some cases can be very jarring because you're not used to it. But a good piercing done well with the correct jewelry will usually just kind of seem like it fits you. It's how you want to represent yourself. It's really common with septum piercings. The first time somebody sees it, they're kind of like, I don't know. And it does take a little while to get used to it. And usually with those piercings, it's very basic jewelry to start out with. There's tons of other things you can do once it heals that are going to fit maybe more with your style. So give it time, heal it out, and you'll have time. And that's the next thing I want to talk about. Practicality over fashion. In a lot of cases, having a huge thing on there, etc., or something that's going to get caught on stuff all the time or is really heavy is not the best option for an initial healing piercing. Sometimes getting something simplistic and simple and lightweight is a better option. The larger pieces are probably going to get caught and snagged on things or cause it to catarrhally or whatever the hell you want to call it, move out of a placement, migrate, etc., because the weight isn't balanced. Your piercer should kind of talk to you about this when they do the piercing and give an opinion on it. If they don't, ask them. Because heavier jewelry can cause issues. And simple jewelry, it just makes things easier if you're not catching and snagging it on everything it comes in contact with. Here's one thing you always want to consider with initial piercing jewelry. In some cases, especially ear piercings, it's going to look a little bit different once you downsize the jewelry. Same thing with nipple piercings and things where you have to oversize the jewelry to make sure that it doesn't swell beyond the length of the jewelry. It's always going to look better once you go to the shorter pose. Same thing with lip piercings, etc. Anytime we have to be accountable for swelling, we tend to overcompensate, and there's a reason for that. And when you downsize, it'll look great. Now, did you have anything you'd like to add about choosing jewelry or selecting jewelry or experiences you've had with piercers where they steered you in the wrong direction or preferably the right direction? Please leave a comment, especially something I didn't cover. If you'd like to ask any other questions, I always answer comments when I have time. Also, you can check out our YouTube live stream every Monday at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time called Talking About Piercing. It's kind of a podcast thing we've been doing. Me and my apprentice Scott sit down and we talk about our week and etc. and talk about piercing subjects that interest us and also answer viewer questions. So if you're one of those people who needs that answer right away, that might be your best option. Next episode is going to be about piercing tools. But until then, here's hoping all your piercings heal with ease and without a single issue. And if you're in the Des Moines, Iowa area, I'd love to see if your piercing needs in the future. Have a good day, everybody. Take care, and we'll see you in that next video.